Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. We're doing a full moon horoscope for the full moon in Sagittarius, which is happening on Thursday, May 23rd, 2024 at 9:53 a.m. Eastern. That is 6:53 a.m. Pacific time, and later on in the afternoon if you're on the other side of the world. This is happening at 2 degrees and 55 minutes of Sagittarius, and this is a beautiful full moon, guys. For those of you that are somewhat new to astrology, a full moon is when we have an exact opposition with the sun and the moon. So we have the sun, which just entered Gemini at 2 degrees and 55 minutes of Gemini, with the full moon at 2 degrees and 55 minutes of Sagittarius. Full moons are when we're at the culmination point. This is the brightest part of the lunation cycle, and when things are coming to their fullest manifestations and their completions. We're going into the waning half of the lunation cycle. Emotions can be heightened as well as intuition, but this is really a time of realization, completion, and something coming to culmination. Now, because this is happening at 2 degrees and 55 minutes of Sagittarius, that means it is happening in the first decan of Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, of course, the ruler of Sagittarius. And this is also ruled by the Eight of Wands tarot card. The Eight of Wands is a card about fast forward movement, and it is really about bringing the energy of earth and fire together. You can think of it as like earthing that fiery, passionate energy into the earth to make something tangible. This is also a card that's associated with travel or communication, just fast forward movement in general. So things are moving fast. This is progress, changes, excitement, alignment, pretty much just any sort of movement in general. Now we know that Sagittarius is the ninth sign of the zodiac. This is mutable fire, and it is also ruled by planet Jupiter. Now, Sagittarius is a sign that is known for its love for adventure and freedom. It is really an adventurous spirit. It's also a sign that is really the visionary, and it's also a truth seeker. This is a sign that's associated with freedom and the need for exploration, as well as philosophical pursuits, and just a need for humor and lightening the load a little bit. It's also a sign that's associated with expansion because it's ruled by planet Jupiter. It's education, knowledge, and good fortune. Luck and good fortune are definitely associated with Sagittarius. It is also our belief systems. And as you guys may know, we have the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in April of 2024, and this was really eradicating our belief systems, and this full moon is really going to play off that energy even more so. I really do believe that this full moon is really about finding the truth that we already know or have known deep down, even if our quote unquote belief systems have been somewhat shifted over the past month or two when we've had all of this, astrological energies shifting, and we had the solar flares at the beginning of May, and we've just had a lot of things going on. And finally, we're coming into this time of just good benefic energy. We've had a lot going on, and Jupiter is about to move into Gemini, which we will cover as well. But this is really about finding a truth that we already know deep within. It's also about seeing the bigger picture of things, finding the joy in things, finding the humor in things, and lightening up a little bit. Sagittarius is very much a sign that wants to just enjoy life and have fun and find the philosophical meaning of that fun maybe afterwards. Our vision for the future that we've been trying to cultivate will come through experiencing some sort of joy or just capitalizing on what brings us happiness. Now, diving a little bit deeper into this full moon, guys, as you can see, we do have the full moon up here in Sagittarius at 2 degrees and 55 minutes. It is making a sextile to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, a trine to Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, and it's making, of course, an opposition to the sun over here in Gemini at 2 degrees and 55 minutes, as well as Jupiter and Venus, which are in a conjunction cazimi on the same day at 29 degrees of Taurus. Honestly, guys, I think this is really beautiful. This is the two benefics coming together. And that said, Venus is at home in the sign of Taurus, of course, and this is at 29 degrees of Taurus. So the energy is intensified even more so. Some people could interpret that as being a quote unquote bad degree, but it's the two benefics and they're in Taurus. I really don't think we're going to see any bad or chaotic energy that's specifically coming from Jupiter and Venus being conjunct or cazimi, especially next to the sun during a full moon, opposite the full moon. But, this is really expanding on our relationships, our values. This could be, as we've been talking about, Taurus is a sign that deals with our finances. So things in regards to finances or investments could definitely be, coming to culmination, or there could just be luck in finances. I mean, if you want to take a risk in investing in something, be my guest, but do that at your own discretion. But this is really a beautiful social energy as well. It's lots of like warmth, happiness, opportunities, luck, creativity is enhanced, art is enhanced, the aesthetic of things is very much enhanced. So if you're trying to decorate or trying to design something, that would definitely be a beautiful time to, try to cultivate that. It is really reaping the rewards for what we have sown as we've been having all of this Taurus energy happen over the past month or two. Now, with this full moon in opposition to Jupiter and Venus, if we're feeling any sort of way, like emotional or like our emotions are heightened or whatever, I definitely think that relief could come from getting out and socializing or doing something fun, also capitalizing on your creative pursuits with that opposition there, because our feelings could be a little bit intense because of course it's a full moon. But this is a very social energy, especially with the sun in Gemini. Gemini and Sagittarius is an axis of, being out there and socializing and talking to people and gaining knowledge or wisdom through your connections, or at least through some sort of adventure or exploration. The only thing that I would really say about this is be careful of being like a little bit over generous or over giving. This is definitely an axis that could you could just tend to just overdo it with things, especially with Jupiter and Venus there at 29 degrees of Taurus. I know they're not in the sign of Gemini, but they're close to it. They're in conjunction to the sun. So we could tend to give too much of ourselves to social interactions and we could burn ourselves out that way. So just be careful with that. Also, with Jupiter and Venus conjunct at 29 degrees of Taurus, I would say that that could play out with like being overly indulgent in the good things in life, like overeating or over consuming alcohol or something like that. So just be careful with like overdoing it with pleasurable activities. Taurus is a sign of pleasure. Also, don't share too much of your emotions in your social interactions. You can find relief in your emotions if they're overwhelming through socializing, but there may be a tendency to overshare and give too much information about yourself or just like talk about your feelings too much. Really, you want to keep it light when you're socializing and interacting with other people or going on some sort of adventure or exploration, whatever you want to call it. But really, this is just a emotional need and animal instinctual need to have some sort of connection with other people and to be like have companionship in some way. It's a very loving energy, it's very compassionate energy, it's a very affectionate energy. um you know I could say that maybe there could be some opposing conversations, or like your conversations with other people could bring about oppositions in value systems or belief systems or something like that. So just be careful. Also, if you're talking about anything related to like belief systems, religion or politics, or anything like that, there could be a difference in value. So just be careful about talking about things like that. Okay, moving on to this trine from the full moon to Neptune at 29 Pisces. I bet you guys have had some crazy dreams going on over the past, I think it's been like 2 weeks since Neptune has been there at 29 degrees, but maybe three. I don't know, I'll have to look back. But either way, Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, the last degree of the zodiac. This is very Piscean, guys. And not to mention, Jupiter is also making a sextile, I believe. Yep, Jupiter is making a sextile to Neptune. So the traditional ruler of Pisces and the modern ruler of Pisces are sextiling each other. So that's heightening the Piscean energy even more so. But the trine from the full moon to Neptune is really heightening our intuition, our spiritual pursuits, our what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, our ability to tap into the spiritual realms of life is going to be extremely heightened with this aspect. It may come a little bit unnoticed, obviously, because it's a trine, it's not a sextile. Sextiles are a little more visibly or consciously available to us. Trines can sometimes go a little bit more unnoticed because it's more instinctual. So we could be connected to the spiritual realms of life without really consciously understanding that. So even you just watching this video can make you consciously aware of that. We're very tuned in. The veil is very thin, is another way to put it. Like our imagination is just running wild. Our creativity is extremely heightened. Dreams are off the chain. We could have like fantasies. Be careful wearing rose colored glasses, or, not really understanding where your desires or your needs for things are coming from. But this is really an energy of like, um making the quote unquote impossible possible, because nothing is impossible, especially in Pisces when you're combining the spiritual realms into the physical realms. especially with Jupiter and Venus in Taurus, in the physical earth sign of Taurus, fixed earth. It's almost like we have this instinctual desire to get to the root of the meaning of life. I don't know, that just came to me intuitively with Neptune at 29 Pisces, this full moon in Sagittarius. They're both very like spiritually inclined signs. And it's like Sagittarius wants to go out and explore the physical domain of the world to find its spiritual answers. And with this trine, it's like exploring the astral realm. So it's like we're traveling between two realms during this full moon. Also, with this sextile to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, we could be clearing up, old subconscious blocks or things that have held us back in the past. And really, that's kind of why I was hinting at emotions being heightened even more so on top of it being a full moon already. But it's making a sextile Pluto retrograde to the full moon. So, this is really getting deep within our psyche, and it could come out or show up as just being a little bit more emotional or emotionally sensitive than normal. But really, we're clearing old subconscious blocks with Pluto retrograde. We're getting rid of shadows and alchemizing them. And if we can utilize that Neptune and Jupiter and Venus and the Sun and Gemini, socializing, getting out there, combining the astral with the physical, and conversing with people, exploring things, having an adventure of some sort, then I think we'll be able to alchemize any of those shadows that we're working through with Pluto in Aquarius. I also find it really interesting that Mars, which just conjunct the North Node, it was like a week prior to this full moon, we had Mars conjunct the North Node, and now Mars is at like pretty much the exact midpoint of the North Node in Chiron. It's not making any crazy aspects. It is making a semi-square to the Sun. The only thing that was coming up for me when I was looking at this is like an identity crisis or something, or trying to find our identity in our like circle, or like our friend groups, or like people we're connected to, or people we're talking to, or like how we're going out and exploring with all this exploration energy, Sagittarius and Gemini axis energy. It's like there's some sort of like possible identity crisis, which is kind of what we've been working through with Chiron and Aries already. So as Mars approaches this Chiron, um, over the following week, it's going to maybe heighten that energy even more so, but it could come out around the time this full moon with this semi-square. It's obviously it's a minor aspect, so it's not that prominent, but that's what was coming through when I was looking at this. And just careful, especially with it being in opposition to the South Node and it being still in conjunction to the North Node. This could be like overly identifying with our relationships or our connections, our friends, or also overly identifying with like some form of knowledge or some form of information that we're trying to get, which actually brings me to Mercury, because Mercury is technically unaspected. I'm sure it's making some sort of aspect to like an asteroid or something like that, but technically Mercury at 11 degrees of Taurus is unaspected. It's not making any aspects to um, any major planets. So Mercury is the dispositor of the sun right now because Mercury rules Gemini. So this can bring up, just feeling a little bit uneasy. It's very like nervous system dysregulation type energy. So just be careful with that. It's kind of changeable. It's very like nervous or restless, having a very rapidly moving mind to a lot of extent. Remember that Taurus is fixed Earth. So I'm not saying it's uncomfortable there, but it probably is uncomfortable with the fact that it's not having any other conversations or aspects with other planets. Another way that this could manifest is being a little bit more reserved with our communication. I think that this is a very social energy, but it's almost like the words might not be flowing the way that you want them to flow with Mercury being unaspected, especially in Taurus. Mercury in Taurus is a little bit more reserved in their communication style, but it's just like a social anxiety type energy to me. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to cover, guys. I just wanted to keep this short and sweet. There is, of course, a couple other aspects, like Jupiter is making a trine to Pluto. Technically, it will come into that trine when it moves into Gemini. But speaking of that, Jupiter will be moving into Gemini 2 days after this full moon on May 25th, and that will start a year of Jupiter being in the sign of Gemini. So definitely check and see what house is ruled by Gemini in your particular chart. So that will give you an inclination of where Jupiter's transit through Gemini is going to be related to your specific life. But also keep in mind that Jupiter is at home in the opposite sign of Sagittarius. So I think a lot of people have been forgetting that Jupiter is actually in detriment in the sign of Gemini. And I might do a separate video all about Jupiter transiting through Gemini in general, just because it's a pretty prominent transit. Jupiter only changes signs once a year. So when Jupiter is going into its detriment sign, especially expanding on an area that is ruled by planet Mercury, Mercury is very small and precise and moves very fast. It's the traveler between worlds, right? Mercury or Hermes was the messenger of the gods. So when Zeus or when Jupiter moves into Mercury territory, Jupiter is huge, expansive. It wants to expand things. It's very big. And when it's moving into the home of Mercury, to me, this is going to expand on our nervous tension and expand on anxiety, expand on our rapidly moving mind. Not that I need that any more than I already do, but I'm sure you guys can relate. Um, it could just cause a lot of misinformation that's being spread or things being exaggerated. So just look out for that, especially in the media or the news or, information that you're consuming. Be careful of the types of information you're consuming or where you're getting your information or your knowledge from. But of course, Jupiter is the great benefic, so it's not like going to be a terrible energy. It's just something to look out for because it is technically going to be in detriment. Also, another thing that is important to know is 2 days after this full moon, Mars at 17 um, of Aries, Mars will move to 19 degrees of Aries, which is the degree that the total solar eclipse was at on April 8th. So this is going to activate when Mars moves over that point. It's going to activate that total solar eclipse energy of April 8th. As you guys probably know or hopefully know, a solar eclipse happening isn't going to happen instantaneously on the day of the solar eclipse. It will gradually unfold as we go into the following eclipse season in the fall. But anytime we have a major planet or point passing over that degree point, it's going to activate that energy. So 2 days later, Mars will move to 19 degrees of Aries and activate that solar eclipse energy. Also, as we've been talking about, that same day, Jupiter will move into Gemini. I also just got this weird download because Gemini rules the hands or the extremities. And it's almost like I envisioned Jupiter moving into Gemini, like somebody waving a hand over here when we're actually supposed to be waving or looking over here at this hand. So just be careful of distraction and being distracted from what we should really be paying attention to. Like all of this stuff coming out about I don't even know, is it Diddy, or there's also like there's just a lot of things in the celebrity sphere that's going around. I don't pay attention to it personally, but just be careful. It just came to mind, don't be distracted by what we should actually be paying attention to. But that is all I have for you guys. I hope you have a beautiful full moon in the sign of Sagittarius. And if you guys want to book personal astrology and or tarot readings with me, I will leave all the information in the description box and the pinned comment below. If you guys have any trouble with checkout, shoot me an email or a DM on Instagram or TikTok because I'm just getting that link set up. But everything should be good to go. I was having a little bit of issues with the checkout for the astrology readings. So if you have any issues, just don't hesitate to DM me or email me if you need to. But either way, guys, I hope you have a beautiful full moon in Sagittarius, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.